Let's move on to an easier issue, right? Healthcare. Let's come home with this issue. I want to ask the question first in the context of what we learned at the end of the week. The administration's mid-session budget review is late this year, but they now say the deficit over the 10-year period to come will be $9 trillion. $9 trillion with a T dollars. That's up from a $7 trillion estimate a few months back when they released their budget in February. Senator Lieberman, to you first. In that context, with a bigger deficit, is it time for the president to hit the reset button, forget sweeping health care reform this year, do 3 or 4 incremental things that are less costly, prove that you're bringing the cost curve down, and then go after the more difficult and more expensive issues?
In a word, yes. I don't think I give the president tremendous credit for taking on the health care problem, and it really is a problem that we've got to deal with, but he took it on at a very difficult time that was not of his making. In other words, we're in a recession. People are very worried about their jobs, about the economic future. They've watched us add to the debt of this country. We're projected to run a $1.8 trillion deficit this year, September 30th. More than $1 trillion next year. You mentioned the 10-year numbers. People are nervous. I think the protests coming out at the public meetings around the country this month are as much to do with that larger environment as they are with questions about health care reform. So I think, you know, great changes in our country often have come in steps. The civil rights movement changes occurred in steps. Let's focus now on how to reduce costs. That's been a central theme of the president. Let's talk about how to change the way health care is delivered. Let's talk about protecting people from not getting insurance because of pre-existing illness. Let's take off the caps on the amount of insurance coverage you can get over the years. Let's pay for preventive services for health from the first dollar. Here's the tough one. We morally, every one of us would like to cover every American with health insurance. But that's where you spend most of the $1 trillion plus, or a little less, that is estimated. The estimate said this health care plan will cost. And I'm afraid we've got to think about putting a lot of that off until the economy's out of recession. There's no reason we have to do it all now, but we do have to get started. And I think the place to start is cost, health delivery reform, and insurance market reforms.
Senator Lugar, some Republicans are gleeful at this situation. The president is back on his heels. He's losing support on the economy and on health care. And some of them say, just let it go. Let the Democrats have this fight amongst themselves, trying to figure out what to work. What would you do right now as an elder Republican statesman?
I would advise the president that the bringing up of the health care situation in the midst of the recession, the unemployment problems that Senator Lieberman described, was a mistake. And that therefore he ought to postpone the decision, because even as you try to get to Senator Cardin's ideas of how you get reduced cost and what have you, get back into all the philosophical dispositions of various members, they don't lead to compromise at all. When I was 6 days in southern Indiana, I found people were not talking about health care, although town meetings were occurring. They were very dramatic. It's jobs, the fear of unemployment, the fear of all sorts of bad things happening to your family. It's the economic malaise. Now, this the president has to concentrate on, and he'll get support in doing that, even as he'll have support with the foreign policy situations. But not given now the way the health care thing came out. And you can always go back and forth. Should he have had a plan as opposed to throwing it up for grabs to the Congress, or should he have done this or that? Too late for that. For the moment, let's clear the deck and try it again next year or in subsequent times.
Is there the big choice the Democrats will face when they come back is whether to use reconciliation, which is a process most Americans are saying, where'd that word come from? Yeah. To do this through the budget process with 51 votes instead of the traditional 60 votes you would need to get something through in the Senate. Would you vote with the Democrats in caucus, even though you're an independent now? Would you support that, or would you tell Leader Harry Reid, no way, no how, can't do this on something as big as health care?
I think it's a real mistake to try to jam through the total health insurance reform, health care reform plan that the public is either opposed to or are very, very passionate mixed minds about. It's just not good for the system. Frankly, it won't be good for the Obama presidency. I think because he's got other fights to fight. He's got climate change next domestically. He's got financial regulatory reform. He's got the war in Afghanistan. People on the Finance Committee, which I think remains our great hope now, these 6 people, 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans working together, that's the hope to get things done. They've said to me that they agree on about 3/4 of what needs to be done. Let's do the 3/4 and save the other quarter for a day when the economy is growing and maybe we've done something to turn down the deficit.